Chapter 20, My Teacher's an Alien, starts on page 127. Chapter 20, Piccolo Power. The alien invasion rumors had reached the adults, too, as I found out at dinner that night. "My goodness, Susan," said my mother as she was dishing up my broccoli, "I hope you don't believe any of this nonsense." Believe it? I thought. I started it. But I didn't say that. Instead, I put down my soup spoon and looked at her. "What if I did believe it?" I asked. I tried hard to sound like I was interested, not like I was challenging her. "Well, I suppose we'd have to get you counseling," she said. I could have cried. Obviously, there was no point in asking my parents to help out with this mess. I went upstairs to get ready. Which one will it be? Wait, which ones will it be? I wondered as I slipped into my dress. Just who is the alien gonna steal? I looked in my mirror and crossed my fingers, praying that it wouldn't be me. My parents drove me to the school. They dropped me off and went in to find a parking place. I wonder how he's gonna do it, I thought as I walked through the door. Will it just be freeze everyone here on the spot? Will his ship use some sort of tractor beam to lift up his targets? Or will we wait until later when everyone is asleep and then sneak into their homes and snatch them? The school was fairly zigging with nervous energy. The rumors of the alien invasion had spread to all the grades. The third graders were walking around in pairs, checking over their shoulders every other step. If I hadn't been so scared myself, I would have laughed. I wanted to grab them and say, "Stop worrying, the alien's not after you." "Hey, Susan," called Peter. "Wait up!" Peter was in the chorus. The chorus was bigger than the band. Almost every kid in 6th grade was a member. They would be singing last of all. Peter looked very nice. He had on a white shirt and a red tie. His pale blonde hair was slicked down. "Is your father here?" I asked. He just stared at me. "Are you kidding?" he asked. He walked on until we came to a private place. "What are we going to do?" I asked. Peter shrugged. "What can we do? Keep our eyes open. Be ready to call for help when there's something to prove. Other than that, I can't think of anything. Is Broxholm here?" I nodded. All the teachers had to come to the concert to keep us under control while we were waiting to perform. I figured Broxholm wasn't ready to blow his cover yet. Peter glanced at his watch. "We'd better get into the gym," he said. No sense in getting in any more trouble than we have to." The gym was where we had to wait our turn to perform. It was across the hall from the combination cafeteria and auditorium where we put on our concerts. The 3rd grade chorus was about to go on when Peter and I walked in. "Get over here, you two," hissed Miss Tompkins, the world's oldest living 5th grade teacher. "They're ready to start." As we walked across the gym, I heard 3rd grade chorus begin to sing. They had only gotten through about 3 notes when the music stopped. I grabbed Peter's arm. Had it started? Not actually, as it turned out. Cindy Farkas had fainted. The chorus teacher, Miss Binkin, stopped the program while 2 parents helped Cindy out. Then the singing began again. "False alarm," said Peter with a grin. I nodded. I didn't feel like smiling. Suddenly I heard a familiar voice. Band members over this way!" It was Mr. Smith. He was standing at the far end of the cafeteria holding up his hand. "Band members over here!" he shouted. "We're going down to the primary wing. Mr. Bamwick wants to meet there to tune up." "You can bet Broxholm won't stick around for that," said Peter. "Not the way he hates music." Well, that gave me an idea. I might not have done it if I hadn't been feeling so crabby. But between the fact that we hadn't figured out any other way to stop Broxholm from kidnapping some of our class, and the fact that he was still holding the best teacher I ever had as prisoner, I was pretty mad. I decided if I couldn't beat the alien, I'd settle for annoying him. So before we started down the hall, I took my piccolo out of its case and put it together. Most of the other kids already had their instruments ready. Everybody was nervous. And it wasn't just pre-concert jitters. About half the band was made up of 6th graders. They were the most frightened, of course, especially the ones from our class. "All right, follow me," said Broxholm as he started down the hall. Holding my piccolo behind my back, I positioned myself at the front of the group. When we got about halfway down the hall, I started to play a scale. "Stop that!" shouted Broxholm before I had played 3 notes. "Just practicing," I said. "Well, don't!" he snapped. I had never heard him sound so cranky before. I must have really gotten to him. I began to wonder if I could break through his false front and get him to show himself for what he really was. I put my piccolo to my lips and began to play again. "Please," he said, clapping his... Wait, no, hold on. "Miss Simmons, stop that," he ordered again. But this time I didn't stop. "Please," he said, clapping his hands over my ears. His ears. "Miss Simmons, please stop." I couldn't believe it. He was in agony. I began to play louder. "Susan," he howled, bending over. "Stop!" I took the piccolo away from my lips, just for an instant. "Not on your life, Broxholm." Then I started to play again, the best piccolo music I knew, the solo from the Stars and Stripes Forever. "Stop it!" shouted Broxholm, stumbling down the hall in front of me. "Stop, stop, stop!" "Help me, you guys," I said. That was a big mistake. As soon as I took a pause from playing, Broxholm spun around and snatched my piccolo, but I pulled it back to safety before he could tear it from my hands. "Take this, you alien creep!" I cried, and then I trilled him with a high C. He backed away, holding his hands to his ears, and went back to the Stars and Stripes. I went back to the Stars and Stripes, starting at the beginning. I heard Mike Foran join me on his saxophone. Then Billy Gooch brought in the trumpet. We advanced on Broxholm, playing for all we were worth. He retreated down the hall, and his handsome face twisted in pain. Now the clarinets were coming in, and the rest of the trumpets. Then came the drums, and finally, deep and low and powerful, the sousaphone. We sounded fantastic. Mr. Bamwick came running out of the room where he'd been waiting for us. "They're playing it!" he cried in joy. "They're playing it!" But now I heard Dr. Bleakman charging down the hall behind us. "What's going on here?" he roared. "Smith, Bamwick, can't you keep those kids under control?" "They're playing it!" cried Mr. Bamwick joyfully. 7 years I've been waiting for this." "Stop that!" roared Bleakman. "No!" cried Mr. Bamwick. "Don't stop now! Let me hear it!" We couldn't stop. We were on a roll. We had never sounded so good, and Broxholm was crumbling before us. "Stop!" he pleaded. "Stop! Stop!" Adults were crowding out of the auditorium and into the hall. "What's going on?" they shouted. "What's happening out here?" We reached the big finale. I played that trill like I had never played it before. We kept advancing on Broxholm. Soon the new Kinnatuck Falls Elementary School marching band had the alien cowering in a corner. "What do you want?" he pleaded. I didn't dare stop playing. I knew my piccolo was keeping him at bay, but Mike stepped in. "Take off your mask!" he shouted. "Your mask!" cried the others. "Take off your mask!" "Anything," said Broxholm. "Just stop making that noise." "First, your mask!" cried the band. Even Dr. Bleakman could see that there was now something weird about his favorite teacher now. He waited in silence. I played my trill again. Broxholm reached behind his head and began to peel off his face. Behind us, people started to scream. Someone cried, "What is that? What's happening?" "Oh my gosh," yelled someone else. "It's Mr. Smith. He's an alien." And that's the end of chapter 20. One more chapter left.